Good evening, everybody. My name's WompCult, and tonight we're going to be talking about a shenanigan, if you will. We're going to be talking about the time that I probably had one of the worst experiences working ever. If that sounds great to you, feel free to stick around. So, what am I talking about? Well, back before I was in the business of wearing these silly hats you see here, I had to get a job. Unlike me now, because I'm unemployed. If you need credentials for me being unemployed, pack of Camel Reds, a broken watch, some chapstick that definitely doesn't work, and half a coffee. Now, I actually worked at this job with one of my other friends and Jamie. Shout out my other friend, by the way. He's actually going to law school now. If you know who you are, you know who you're talking about. And hey, shout out the goat. But where'd we work? What's this about? Guys, we worked at Chipotle. And this was a while ago, right? This was before you kind of have that whole controversy that took place about how the orders are smaller or it's more expensive or they're skimping you on food. This was before the time where you went to Chipotle and you held your phone out, like you're holding a gun to them so they make your shit right. Okay? I want to say this was probably right after one of my first years of college. Came home, needed a job, and one of my friends was working at, or was going to work at a Chipotle because his neighbor worked there. And I was like, bet. And then my other friend who, like, never, I don't think he worked too many places besides this one, was like, all right, bet. So we were all working there. Now, I applied because, again, at this point, I had, like, a lot of experience with restaurants. I knew exactly what I wanted. I gave him, like, my exact hours. I was like, just this, and I wanted to be the grill guy. Because WompCult likes to cook the food. He doesn't like to take the orders, you know what I mean? They were fine with that. We started. Both of my boys, I didn't really see. Like, I saw them, but I did not see them often. It was usually during shift change because they both were like, I'll take whatever. So they put them on the morning shift, right? And I tried to get on the morning shift a couple times, but they weren't really fucking with that. So why am I making this video? What's up with Chipotle? Well, I was going through my sort of catalog and I realized I really do enjoy doing this sort of shenanigans series, right? And I've sort of been on a podcasting spree as an excuse, not really an excuse, but just because I've obviously moved back to my domain and I'm not sure how much free time I have. And I think that you guys do deserve some longer formed content. And I think it definitely, I've had more fun making it. I think some people are starting to enjoy that more. Um, so yeah, again, if you guys prefer one form of content over another, comment down below. That's the best way to do it. Or comment on my Instagram, right, guys? I am on Instagram, WompCult Instagram. Follow me. I'm on Tumblr too, but I don't use that, so I just wanted to claim the name. But anyways, back to this. So working at Chipotle was very different from my two other friends because they were both the cashiers, right? And if you've never been to a Chipotle, hey, I got you, okay? Basically, you walk in and it's like any other like restaurant, okay? I don't think they have drive-throughs. The one I worked at definitely didn't have a drive-through. And basically, it's basically just Subway, right? But with like Mexican food. So you go down, you're like, I don't want beans, I want cheese, I want queso on that, whatever. Cool. So they were those guys. They were the guys who you actually made your burrito, they made the bowl. I was the guy who cooked everything. Now, the Chipotle that I was working at was fairly new to my area, and I'm not sure if the management or the stuff, like the higher ups who work there, were happy with our store. And I'll get into that later. But before I do, there are definitely people in this video who I think are the GOAT, okay? And I'll go over a few of them because there are a lot of people who worked here who my friends always talk to me about, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. And same with them because, guys, little womp cult tip for you here. if you're ever going to take a job like Chipotle, stuff like that, work the night shift. Please just work the night shift. It's so much easier. I mean, I don't know. I'm definitely a night shift person. Also, comment down below, you know, what's going on, right? You work in the night shift, you work in the day shift. Why do you prefer it? What's going on? I personally like the night shift because I think it's easier. I think there's less expectations, especially when you're working at a job where it's not as serious, right? Like my career isn't going to be at Chipotle. I want the least amount of work for the most amount of money, you know? If it's something I'm interested in, sure, but I'm not going to college to major in like burrito manufacturing or food science, you know what I mean? So that was where I was at. So my training consisted of sticking me in a room and like playing these little games in between like videos. It kind of felt like when you were a kid and you'd take like the placement tests. And at least this was me. I don't know if you guys could tell this by the way, but me and my boy, shout out bro. I know you know who I'm talking about here too. It was me and my good friend. He hasn't been on the podcast yet. Let's call him Steve. Me and Steve used to race through the like the middle school placement test to play the game. And then the teachers would be like, "You can't do that. Like that's so bad for you." And we're like, "Okay, but like what about the submarine?" Like, hey, shout out iReady, right? But the fact of the matter is this Chipotle is fairly new, and it was in an extremely newly like developed place in my town. So the pros and cons of that was the pros is during the day it was super busy. During the night it was kind of dead, because part of that like development was still being made and like construction was still going on. So a lot of people didn't go there how they go today. I was there the other day. It's popping off. I mean, there are like kids everywhere. It's like super family friendly. It was insane. A couple years ago when I worked there, it wasn't like that. Not that it was like a bad place. Not that it wasn't family friendly, but like after like 7 p.m., the only thing you're seeing is like a tumbleweed, unless like in events happening, right? So like 4th of July, that's a big thing. But I was always the grill guy, and we didn't really have like others. Like we did, but we didn't. Um, I worked with this dude named, I think his name was like Pat. I can't remember. He was the goat. He taught me how to do grill. He was always like a chief. Dude was always up in the clouds. And he was like, "I hope you don't care." I was like, "Dude, I don't care." Bro was actually like goated. He was like, "This is how you do this. This is how you do this. Boom. They want you to do it this way. You can do it that way." Dude, Pat was the goat. Pat showed me what I could get away with and what I can't. Which really, when you're training any new employee in the restaurant scene, is what you need to tell them, right? I mean, there's no reason to have the new person fuck up your mojo. If you got a system going, show them the system, right? Working at Chipotle was definitely a lot different than working other places, simply because of how understaffed we were on the kitchen side. Because for morning we'd have a bunch of people. For the nighttime, most of the time it was just me in the entire kitchen by myself, which means that one of the night managers would basically have to help us out as the second kitchen person. And remember, I'm like kind of new. Was I the best at being the kitchen person at Chipotle? I'm not gonna lie, guys. No. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I think it definitely got to me. When there's a line out the door and everyone's yelling a bunch of shit that you need to cook. I don't know if you guys know this about me. I only have two hands, right? So a lot of the times I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm getting to it." Like it is what it is. Because, hey, I'm here to get the money, right? If you don't want to hire people, that sounds like a you problem. That sounds like an upper management problem, right? That's not a WompCult problem. WompCult's putting his apron on. WompCult's putting the hat on. Best part was though is sometimes they let me do the dishes, but mainly a night looked like this. If I was going to work at Chipotle, I'd get there. Uh, you know, I'd see Pat. What up, Pat? Pat would sometimes work with me, but not really. I'd see my friends if they were working for shift change. They'd all leave. Then we got the night crew. Guys, night crew was stacked. Okay. We had this dude named Matt who was like my height, ripped, and younger than me. Funny as fuck. Okay. We had this other dude named, like, I think his name was Tom. And then we had this other dude named Nick. And those guys made like they were like the goon squad because they were like I want to say like either I think some of them were a year older than me, some of them were a year under me, but those were the kids where they're like, hey, work's fun, right? Um, but yeah, if those guys were working, I knew it was a good shift, right? And also the managers too. There was so there's the person who ran the store um, does not fuck with me. Does not fuck with me, and I never got my last check, and I'm pretty sure it was on purpose. And I owe the store or the Chipotle owes me like $400. Um, and the whole gist of that is because I guess I'll rip the band-aid off. Is basically they just never paid me. I tried to file something with the state I live in to get my wages, and they removed me from a lot of the group chats, so I couldn't prove that I had to work those hours. If that makes sense. Do I think they removed me on like? Do I think it was like a malicious thing where it was like, oh, like it's a conspiracy and Chipotle's out to get WompCult? Yes. Nah, I'm just joking, guys. I think it was more of a thing of I'm getting like de-employed, right? I'm getting removed. I'm quitting. I'm getting out of the group chat. Whatever. I think it's a coincidence that uh, the manager who ran the whole store, who I didn't like, and I don't think they liked me, and they were like my friend's neighbor. Um, they didn't run it too well. They didn't seem happy with their job, and we constantly seem to butt heads over either I need more training or you should hire another person. No, or hey, why isn't this happening? What's going on with this? What the fuck are you talking about? Right? So I think there was a disconnect. Do I think they're a bad person? Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think sometimes in these videos I try to be pretty modest, but I mean, I got my check every other week besides that one. Uh, so, maybe it's karma, right? I don't know. Point being is that Chipotle never paid me $400. So, to their credit, right? Because I'm not perfect. I like to have fun at work. So I would make because I don't know if you guys know this. There's kind of two big ones that are known for hating their workers that have like unions. The first is Starbucks. The second is Chipotle. So I'd make jokes like because like we would get done with a rush or something, and I'd make jokes like, man, this job's pissing me off. Hey, who wants to unionize? Who's making a union? And she'd be like, that's not funny. You can't joke about that. Like, there are like different legal things you have to do that. Like, she like knew it off rip, and I was like, that is crazy. But yeah, these people also hate unions. I even bought that with fake money. Hello, dining points. Point being though, so yeah, me and the person who ran the store, like the manager of the whole store, the GM, we kind of had a little beef. It wasn't like on site like my Walmart job. That video is coming soon too. I actually recorded that video before this, and it's at my house. So that one's on me, guys. You're supposed to get more WompCult sooner, and it just brought the wrong hard drive. So my fault. But there's like very rare jobs where me and like I don't want to say it's like on site beef, but like like it's like I want to Swiss cheese you. Like I'm trying to play Kirby and smash and down B you. Like what are we doing? And I think a big part of the reason that I enjoyed it was the other managers. The other managers I worked with, I think there were like three actual managers, but there's kind of four people I consider managers because they were there so often. It was this other dude who was like Benson, so we'll call him Benson. Benson, this was Benson's either second or third job, so he'd work his real job, would come home, and then would work at Chipotle and would close it. Benson, when I first started to work there, I hated and I thought he was an op, and just like in regular show, the more you watch it, the more you realize that he kind of has to do these things in order to like get his paycheck. And he's not actually an asshole once you get to know him and you know what you kind of have to do, right? Compared to that, we have this other manager, and her name was Liv, Liv was the goat. Hey, Liv, if you're somehow seeing this, shout out. The reason why I'm here is because of her. She actually offered to. I think it was because if I talked to any of the managers the most about like just like being real and joking around, it was definitely her because she like made similar jokes back to me, and she was just like the goat. She wrote me a letter of like recommendation to transfer here. So, Liv, if you're seeing this, shout out. Thank you. Uh, Worked at a lot of cool places because of you, and I owe you a lot. The other manager was this dude named. I'm trying to remember their names, man, because this was so long ago. I'm pretty sure his name was Adam. Yeah, Adam was the goat, but I kind of felt bad for him because what would happen is, how I'll describe it is Adam was a good guy, but I think he got a lot. He was like a joker too, but he was kind of very like anxiety inducing because I don't know why, but it's like if you ever meet someone and they have really bad anxiety, like you kind of get some of it too. It's like, man, what's going on? Like you like the negative aura is like rubbing off on me, and I don't like it. Um, but like a shift, I'll describe a normal shift. So shift, go in, see if my boys are working. If they're not working, whatever. Most of the time, if I don't see my friends, I'd see the big dude. The big dude was the only other grill guy I really ever talked to who was not on shift change, besides this dude named Gregorio. And Gregorio, I fucked with because I don't know if you guys realize this. At this point, I'm extremely comfortable working with people that I'll never talk to, right? I've worked with jobs where I've worked on entire teams where they don't speak English and we don't really talk to each other, but we get the job done, right? Teamwork's important. Language is a barrier to an extent, whatever. Listen, Gregorio got his job done, okay? Guy probably works harder than I ever will in my life. Don't get me wrong. You wanna know why I like Gregorio? Because I would walk over in the corner sometime and he'd tug on my shirt and be like, Gregorio, what's up, man? He'd look over, he'd point at his phone. This motherfucker's betting on horses at work, okay? He's in Chipotle, he did all the morning prep, whatever. Uh, he's about to leave. He's staying for maybe another hour OT, whatever. And bro's betting on fucking horses at Chipotle. Gregorio, like, dude, that was the funniest thing to me ever. And I know he'd win because he'd come up to me and he'd point at the horse and he'd smile. I'm like, hey, man, good for you for gambling at work, right? Isn't that the American dream? Gamble at work. Um, but yeah, I'd go in. The big dude was also awesome. He was the only other grill guy, and I swear he would give everyone else attitude besides me. Whenever I come in, he'd be like, "Yeah, brown rice, it's coming," because it's the same boat. Like, he's the only dude, like low key. Um, yeah, that store had a lot of issues. People calling out. I don't know, and you'll see later on what I talk about the sort of structure being weird. But he would, you know, he could be like super pissed off. He looked at me and be like, "Hey, welcome to the jungle, brother. How we doing?" And it's like, yeah, bro fucked with me because guess what? He knows that when he leaves in 20 minutes, I'm taking over the shit show, right? Like, and that's what it is. That's what it's about. But I take over a shit show. If I remember right, like we'd either collapse the online stuff or I'd have to cook a bunch of stuff because we'd be behind because I was always behind because I never had enough people, so it sucked. Um, I don't even remember getting paid like over the moon about that job. I think the only thing where I liked the pay is because I was in the back and they tipped out back a house, so like it was pretty good, you know. And then usually, oh, there's the fourth person I was talking about, which was the I can't remember if she was a manager or not, but she always wore like a mask. This was like kind of similar like post COVID, so stuff's still in the air. That's still normalized, right? And what would happen is she'd always wear a mask, and I forget her name. I think it was like Charlotte. Um, but yeah, she'd be there till close. We'd close together, and she'd always either be in the dish pit or be online. But I loved when she was online because, dude, let me tell you about people wanting to give Charlotte their tip. Okay, a lot of them, and guess what? I got a fraction of that, and she knew it too. And I was like, I'd always talk to them. I'd be like, yo, like, I just feel like you're wasting her, like in the back, like, and because she'd be like, they always put me in the back on the dishes, like what the fuck? And I'd always say to her, like, hey, You want to switch? I'll do the dishes all night. I don't care. I love doing dishes. Like, if I was rich and I needed a job to do something, I think I'd just wash dishes all day. You know, you plug the headphones in, you just what's wrong with that, you know? But anyways, and she knew it too because she's like, whenever I'm back here too, my tips suck because, you know. But yeah, and then it, now that's like a normal night, and then what happens is depending on the manager. So it was really rare for Liv to just be the only manager, but we might close like a little early. Um, you know, like within reason, like she does her job, whatever. She's chill. Let's just listen to music. Cool, awesome. Shout out Liv. We go home. The night's pretty normal, and also she was really good at making sure everyone's like the balance was good, so that we're not getting fucked over randomly if a rush comes in. If it was Benson, we're staying exactly till we close, or maybe a little after. He's making me clean all of the fucking kitchen, which sucked to do because they like never had the right materials. Towards the end, he was a little bit more lenient, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck it, bleach that, throw this on here. It's not hurting anyone. Like, you know what you're doing." But Liv didn't really give. She was like, "Eh." I mean, she'd always ask me if I came into open if that was good, and I'd be like, "Fuck yeah," because I mean, come on, you know. If you have a flat piece of fucking metal that's on all day, it's gonna be gross at the end of the night, and you're gonna clean it. But to make it spotless every day, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it definitely had to be done spotless, and I'd be like, "Fuck, this has to be done spotless." But there's other times where it's like, "Listen, what are we doing?" If it was Adam, we are closing 2.5 hours early. I don't think there was a single time I worked with Adam or consecutively in a week where we didn't close early. So if we didn't close early Monday and I'm working Wednesday, we're closing early Wednesday. If I'm working Friday for some reason and I worked Monday, Wednesday, like because and he always had these different excuses which I didn't care about, but I thought it was funny because he was like, "Oh, since I'm the manager, I have to like justify it." He'd be like, "Oh, well, we're out of food, and that's like our best item, so we might as well close." And like, it made sense kind of, but it was also just like, "All right, whatever. We're closing early. Get me out of this thing." Adam was the goat. The only other issue with the anxiety is sometimes he'd be like, "Can you count this money? Like, I can't tell if I counted it right." And then I'd be like, "Okay, what do you think it is?" He's like, "No, no, no, tell me your number." I'm like, "Fuck, okay." So I'd be like, and it'd be like 338, and he'd be like, "I got 339," and I'm like, "Bro, come on, just you want to do 338.5?" Like, God. But I think working there was great. I mean, sometimes I'd be in the back doing some dishes, you know, and they would once in a while, you know, take a little mood boost, right? One of the people there were like, "I fucking hate working here." I'm like, "Hey, me too." They're like, "Yo, little FB, little little shot of FB." I'd be like, "Hey, shout out." Rip one of those, close in an hour, go home. Because towards the end of the night, when kitchen was off, they send my ass to the dish pit, and every fucking bowl that I murdered that day that had like the corn in it, the other shit, like and that was the other thing too is with that location I remember there was some stuff where I'm like, why are we doing this logistically? Because I have like a little bit of mind for logistics, right? I'm not an expert, but there's some things I see and I'm like, why are we trying to fit the round peg in like the trapezoid hole, right? And one of those was that and my friends always talk about this too, where it's like, yeah, bro, like I'm trying to get tips, I'm trying to sell people on stuff, like, yo, like try our guac, and you look at it and it looks like the dude who came in, who was outside asking like if you got a Sigda bum, just like squatted in the bowl, you know. But hey, it's guac. Like, dude, no one's buying that. Or it's like a weird like gray color. Like, come on, bro. The other thing too is like doing those dishes. Like I said, it was great until they're like, nah, like we need you to stop doing the dishes and go back to cleaning the grill because then your hands are all wet and then you come home and like it looks like you were working in a coal factory, you know, because everything's like cooked and it's like, oh my god, like what are we doing? Like, ugh, I remember scrubbing it off and it was, and they had the grill bricks, which were horrible. And it, But yeah, the grill bricks were like horrid. Um, and essentially they were this weird styrofoamy texture that was gross and would get all over you and was just awful to deal with in general. Part of the other big issue too is just that, you know, that job was the very definition of this is a temporary job, right? I think long term, if I had to work there, I would probably hurt myself, um, like most sort of jobs like that, because you definitely are not working your wage, and if you are, it's like so non-beneficial to you. It's horrid. Um, I am glad I worked with the people I worked with there, and it was great. But I think like the most entertaining part was like some of the stories. So some stories from that store is oh, that's also how I got into drinking Pib Extra. Shout out Pib Extra. The only person I know who drinks that is Spoon Kid. Shout out Spoon Kid. But there's this dude I used to work with. They were twins, and I don't know which one it was, but one of them was named Louis, and he was always like, "Yo, whenever someone pisses me off, I charge them for twice their food." And I was like, "What the fuck did you just say to me?" And he's like, "Yeah, like if they get like a burrito and a drink, I just say they got two burritos and a drink, and then they tip on it too." So Louis was also one of those people, along with Charlotte, where it's like, you know, you got to have them on the front because, like, listen, I want to leave with my tip bag fat, right? I want to leave where like the coins are poking out. Was that ethical? Yeah, probably. I mean, the people who went to this place like were like stupid rich. Like, you know, they have the like the money to blow. And I know it's a Chipotle, but like just the sort of area it was in and the development that was being developed and what's there now is like they have the money. You're not robbing like, you know. One of the best things too about that store that I really liked, which was the pain working at McDonald's, I remember, is when I was at McDonald's, they would sort of like be really serious if someone stole a DoorDash order. And it was this whole thing, right? They didn't give a fuck at Chipotle. They were like I remember there was one manager, I think it was Liv. They were like, "Yo, I know that person comes in every day, and I know they take free Chipotle that someone else orders, and then we have to remake it. I don't really get paid enough to deal with that." And I was like, "Yo, shout out Liv, like, thank you." Because listen, if you've never like grabbed a Chipotle, grabbed a grabbed a thing, because here's the thing: modern day pie sitting on the windowsill cooling. You know, if it's there for a couple hours, who are you hurting? I can't tell you how many times I've been walking back to my dorm and I see, like in the morning, and I see food just there. And that's the worst thing ever. When you order food, forget about it, and you're like, fuck. It's worse even too when you go down there and no one else took it. So you're just sitting, like you ordered a pizza just there, like baking in the sun, sitting out all night. The rats probably got into it, and you're like, great. That was like $40. So, you know, I don't think it hurts everyone to sort of hit a lick now and then in Minecraft. That's also not legal or financial advice. Not that I think you guys would, but I can't. I don't know if you can tell from the hat, the getup, or where I live, but I cannot afford a lawyer, nor am I friends with any. So, you know. But yeah, I mean, I really don't think it hurts anyone. I mean, and that's what I like too, because I think that was the best thing about the managers is they really determined if they made something your problem or not. Adam was like super anxious and like, you know, blah, 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 blah. If I closed with the GM, by the way, I don't even think I went over that. It's over. Like we're doing everything by the book. Like, yeah. Um, it was just horrid. But there's another time where I went to go get queso. We were at a queso. Go in the kitchen and I grab one of them, and they come in these bags and they were like linked together, and for some reason they came up and like the bags tore at a weird angle, so it was almost like a chain reaction, and they got everywhere in the freezer and the walk. And then I had to explain to my GM that like, hey, we're at a queso, and it all spilt everywhere. And she was like, "Oh, we'll clean it up." And I was like, "Oh, thanks for that." And then I was cleaning up, and she's like, "Why aren't you in the kitchen?" And I was like, "Man, I feel so valued as an employee here. I love increasing shareholder value. Yay!" But no, seriously, it was just this sort of nonstop sort of camaraderie or chain reaction of like, oh, great, fuck this, fuck that. Which I get working in that industries like that, but I think the people there sometimes definitely made it worse. There were some people there that were just like annoying to work with. There was other people where they didn't do anything, and sometimes like I can blame them, sometimes I can't. And I think another good story was there was some guy who was like in our bathroom wicked late at night, and we couldn't close, and we were betting on when he's gonna get out because like we were like he has to be jerking off in the bathroom because this guy would do. I think he did this like a couple times, where he just came into the bathroom. Remember, the only person walking around this place after like 7 or 8, unless it's like a big crowd, is like tumbleweeds, right? So what's happening is basically this guy comes in, would just sit in the bathroom, and would sit. He'd be in there for like at least an hour, and it's like, listen, buddy, either you're shooting up or you're fucking beating your meat, and it's like, guys, we have gooning at home. You can go home and goon. That's free, right? Like, why are you gooning in public? What's driving you to go into the Chipotle bathroom in a development that is still being constructed, and you're sitting there and you're like, man, I could really beat my shit right now. Like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I want to go beat my balls off. Who the fuck is doing that in their right mind? I don't think he bought anything either. Actually, I think he bought like a soda once. And I was like, holy shit, he bought something. But like, I remember there was one time we were closing and we had to like get him out of there. We're like, hey dude, we're fucking closed. Like, it's not even like a we are closing thing. Like, the doors are locked. You have to go out this one and you are going to leave. But that dude was kind of a freak. I mean, yeah. The good news is though, the one of the things I did get from Chipotle, and I will show you guys. I have one of them here, and you can see it in other WompCult videos. And part of the reason that I have those, I have the menu board in my house, in my other room, in the office, if you will. Part of the reason I have those is they threw them out because they were changing the menu and the prices were increased. And they basically were like, yeah, you have to throw those out. And I was like, I'm just going to take them. And they're like, I just need them thrown out. And I was like, let's go. And then I tried to take another one too. And they're like, no, you can't have those. So I have the menu board and I have like the lemonade board, which is sweet. I actually had this hung up in my dorm, but then someone yelled at us and it was like a violation. So we had to take it down, guys. God forbid you hang up the advertisement of your old employer who owes you $400. 1984, am I right? But yeah, I stopped working there around because I was going back to school, and I essentially was like, came in one day for my check. They're like, oh, that's weird, I don't have it. And I was like, and they're like, you know what, just come in afterwards. And I remember I came in like 2 weeks afterwards because I was like, plenty of time for a check to come in, and they're like, we don't have your check at all, why don't you get it on your last day? And I was like, I hate you guys. And I was removed from everything then. But yeah, that was what working at Chipotle was like. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I'm not sure if I did. It was like overall on the shenanigans scale, I think it was definitely lower than UPS. Um, I think if I'm giving it out of a 10, I want to say it was like a 4. Just because of how chaotic it was, how much they expected of me, and how little they paid me. Um, right. Other than that, like, I think there are small things that made up for it, right? Like FB or, working with like people who are just funny or are just like stoned off their ass. Like that makes any job fun. Especially one where it's just like a slop job where it's like you're selling slop, right? Like, I'm the slop peddler, come buy my slop. But besides that, I don't think there was like a ton of stuff. I remember there was one time I was wicked tired. Or no, I think I was hungover. I don't know. But I remember I put the barbacoa in the carnitas. And they're like, why the fuck would you do that? And I was like, guys, this one's on me. That's on me. And then everyone was like, it's because you're white, huh? And I was like, all right. All right. All right, guys. Bump the... I know carnitas are pork. All right. Come on. I don't... It's not that bad. But, yeah, I mean... Besides that, everything else was just kind of miserable. I think if I had to rate UPS on the Shenanigans scale, I think I'd give it like a... If I gave Chipotle a 4, I'd probably give it like a 6 or a 7. Just because, I'm not sure if I talked about this in my UPS video or not, but I tried to get back there to work during like the Christmas time, which they were really down for, and they just didn't text me until the last day I had to go back to school. And we're like, can you work this week? And I was like, yeah, no. So I think it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. But overall, I'd say working at Chipotle is a 4. Mainly because they still owe me money. Actually, no, fuck that. Working at Chipotle is like a 3, dude. They still owe me money. They expected so much of me. They didn't do anything right. They constantly closed early, which made the store less money, which means the people were on the GM's ass, which means the GM was on our ass. And it was this never-ending cycle of bullshit. Yeah, I mean, besides that, I think the only thing that's changed is they cleared house. Like, I don't know when it happened, but I go there now and I don't know anyone who used to work there. And I know after we left, I knew like a couple people who still work there, and they sort of told me whispers that everyone was jumping ship just because it was like a horrible place to work at, which, I mean, if you've ever had a store where like they don't really have a GM, or like they don't know, your GM doesn't know what you're doing, it's kind of fucked. Especially because I remember that one was, this is like one of the last things I do remember actually, which I will add, is they sucked logistically. So when we ordered things, they weren't always on par with it. So like it'd be like Wednesday and it's like, I guess we're out of like chicken. or like, I guess we're out of queso. No more queso, no more like lettuce, or it'd be stuff like that where it's like, how do you mess that up? I don't know. But yeah, working at Chipotle is a 3. My recommendation if you do work there is get some fun menu signs and have some Pib. Pib Extra probably saved me. The only other saving grace is like free Chipotle every day. That was great. But yeah, I mean, besides that, that's pretty much it. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Let me know what kind of content you want to see next. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. You know how it is here on the old WompCult channel. And I'm trying to have a video upload at least once every 2 weeks. I got a couple things going on, but we'll try to make that happen because I definitely have fun doing this, and I definitely want to put out more content for the people who do watch this, because I know there are at least a couple of you that are like hardcore WompCult fans. I appreciate that. Anyways, guys, as always, take it easy, and WompCult out.
Push onto my pulse, I can see your face behind the smoke. Sometimes I wonder if you like it when I'm dying for it. So what if I'm afraid? I only harm myself and you don't really care when you put it in the air. Push onto my pulse, I can see your face behind the smoke. Sometimes I wonder if you like it when I'm dying for it. So what if I'm afraid? I only harm myself and
Fun fact, if I actually killed myself, you could get arrested for that.
face behind the smoke. Sometimes I wonder if you